It was just after 7 and the soup was simmering gently on the stove. A quiet Tuesday evening, the kind of night that settles into your bones, warm, predictable, undisturbed. I stirred the pot watching the slow swirl of tomato and basil and reached for my phone to check the time. That's when the buzz came, one short vibration, a text from Aunt Miriam. She wasn't the kind to send memes or updates. Her texts, when they came, were usually blunt church reminders, birthdays, the occasional how's work with no follow-up. So when I saw her name, I assumed it was something simple. Maybe she'd found an old picture from one of our chaotic Thanksgivings. Maybe she was checking in early for Christmas plans. I wiped my hand on the towel and opened the message. There was a video. No caption. Just a shaky, vertical clip. For a second, all I could see was the corner of someone's couch, part of a coffee table, and what looked like my mother's shoulder in the background. I almost closed it. I thought maybe it was a pocket recording a mistake. But then I heard the voices, clear as day. Claire should be grateful, my mother's voice said, sharp, casual, like she was commenting on the weather. She'd be nothing without us. I stopped stirring. My heart didn't race. It slowed, like something inside me paused to listen better. A total disappointment, my father added with a dry little chuckle. But hey, at least she pays the bills. There was laughter then, familiar, overlapping, careless. My hand tightened around the phone. If she ever stops sending money, Aunt Miriam's voice chimed in, the same aunt who'd just sent this clip will guilt her again. She's too soft to say no. The soup boiled over. I didn't notice. They weren't whispering. They weren't even trying to hide it. It wasn't a joke. They weren't acting. They were talking about me, Claire. Not some cousin, not a hypothetical, not some old story taken out of context. Me. The girl who had paid her parents' rent for 5 years, the one who covered Eli's tuition twice, the woman who quietly wired $400 just last month for a roof issue that magically aligned with Mom's birthday dinner. I couldn't move. Then, just as suddenly, it vanished. This message has been unsent. Aunt Miriam had realized what she'd done. She tried to take it back, but it was too late. I didn't move, didn't breathe. I just stood there, the spoon still in my hand, the pot long since boiled over tomato bubbling down the sides in slow, messy streaks. The kitchen filled with the scent of scorched herbs, but I didn't smell it. All I could hear were their voices. Claire should be grateful. She'd be nothing without us. A total disappointment. Too soft to say no. I wasn't crying. That's what surprised me. I wasn't even angry, just hollow. Like the words had carved out something that had already been fragile and left it echoing. I set the phone down on the counter gently, like it might shatter. The silence after was deafening. I sat at the table and stared at nothing. It had always been like this, hadn't it? Not loud, not obvious, just constant, quiet little withdrawals from the account of my dignity, guilt wrapped in kindness, obligations disguised as family. The first time I sent money, Dad had just lost a contract. I was 25, still eating cereal for dinner 3 nights a week, but he needed help with rent. I sent it, without question. When Eli dropped out of college and blamed mental exhaustion, Mom called crying. He just needs a break, she said. He'll go back soon. He didn't. But I still made payments for the next 2 semesters. They needed help with car insurance, then with the roof, then the medical bills. Somehow it was always when I'd just gotten a bonus or my tax refund or a small raise at work. And I always said yes. Because they were my family, and that's what family did. Right. The words from the video ran on a loop in my head louder than reason. She'd be nothing without us. We'll guilt her again. She's too soft. And the worst part, the part I hated admitting, was that they weren't wrong. Not about that. I had been too soft. I had never said no. Not once. I told myself it was because I was strong, because I could take on more, that maybe if I held things together just a little longer, they'd see it, they'd appreciate it. But they didn't see me. They only saw what I gave. And now they thought I hadn't seen the video. They probably laughed it off already. Aunt Miriam must have deleted it the second she realized. Maybe she even called Mom afterward, told her not to worry. Claire didn't see it, I imagined her whispering. She's still in the dark. They didn't know I'd watched every second, and that was the one thing I still had. So I stayed silent, not out of fear, but because silence now was power, and the rent was due again in 3 days. This time, I wouldn't just send it out of habit. This time, I'd wait. Thursday morning came with the kind of quiet I used to treasure. I woke to sunlight creeping past the blinds, filtered and soft. My apartment was still, and for once, so was my mind. Coffee brewed in the kitchen, familiar and grounding. I moved through the motions, pour, stir, sip, but underneath it all, something had shifted. I wasn't the same Claire I had been 3 nights ago. My phone buzzed just after 9 a.m. Mom. Morning, sweetheart. Just thinking of you. Hope your week's going okay. It was almost funny how carefully she crafted these texts, like dipping a hook in honey before casting it out. She never texted me just to check in. There was always something else. And sure enough, 10 minutes later, another message. By the way, rent's due tomorrow. Can you send it over today just in case the bank's slow? I stared at the screen. The reflex inside me, automatic familiar, was already typing. Of course. I'll get it to you by noon. But then I paused. My thumb hovered above the screen. I saw her face in my mind at the table in that video, wine glass in hand, laughing. Too soft to say no. I deleted the draft. Started over. I can't this month, just that. 4 words. No apology, no explanation, no smiley face to soften the blow. I hit send and set the phone down face down next to my coffee. A full minute passed. 2. Buzz. What do you mean you can't? There it was, immediate, sharp. No. Are you okay? No curiosity, just disbelief. Another buzz. Claire, this is serious. We're counting on you. You know we don't have another option right now. I didn't reply. I let her words sit there unanswered, like they'd sat on me for years. A few minutes later, another message. Aunt Miriam. Hey, honey, your mom is freaking out. Is everything okay? That almost made me laugh. I had been sending money to these people for years, and the one time I didn't jump at the request, their world tilted. Not once did they ask if I was okay. Not once did they wonder if I might need help. It had never been about me. It had only ever been about what I gave. I took a breath and typed again. Some unexpected expenses this month. Can't send anything. Sorry. That was it. I made no room for a follow-up, no hint of compromise. Then I turned off notifications and let the silence bloom. And what happened next told me everything I needed to know. The silence didn't last long. That evening, just as I was washing dishes, my phone lit up again. Mom, Claire, what unexpected expenses? What could be more important than your own family? I dried my hands on a dish towel and stared at the screen. She wasn't asking. She was scolding, like I'd forgotten some unwritten rule of loyalty. You know your brother has no way to cover rent. If he gets kicked out, that's on you. There it was, the brother card. Again. Eli, who hadn't held a job in over a year. Eli, who'd called me crying the night he got evicted, except he hadn't been. He just wanted money for concert tickets. I'd sent it anyway. My fingers hovered over the screen, but I didn't type. Not yet. Buzz. We raised you, Claire. We took care of you when you had nothing. Is this how you repay us? My jaw clenched. When I had nothing, I took care of myself. I worked 3 jobs through college. I skipped meals, skipped holidays, skipped sleep. They didn't raise me. They raised their expectations of me. Another buzz. Aunt Miriam. Sweetheart, don't do this. We're family. Your mom's just upset. You know how she gets. Just send the rent and everything will be fine. Fine for who I stepped away from the phone and poured a glass of water, sipping slowly, watching the second hand on the wall clock tick by. Every message made one thing clearer. It wasn't love that tied us together. It was dependency. And the moment that thread frayed, the guilt came rushing in like a dam breaking. Then the screen lit up again, but this time not with a text. A voice message. From Miriam. I stared at it for a long while. She'd never sent one before. She was old school. phone calls, or carefully worded texts with too many commas. But this was something else. I tapped play. Her voice came through tight and clipped. Not angry, controlled. That was worse. Claire, I don't know what kind of game you think you're playing, but it's not funny. Your mother is losing her mind. Your dad is furious, and honestly, I don't blame them. She took a sharp breath. You've always been, well, a little ungrateful. But this is beyond selfish. You have a good job. You don't even need that money. Your family is struggling, and you just wake up one day and decide you don't care anymore. There was a bitter laugh in her voice. You owe them, Claire. After everything they've done for you, they gave you life, and now you're just going to walk away. Pretend they don't exist. My hand tightened around the glass, but I didn't pause the message. And don't think they'll just forget this. If you really want to be that kind of person, fine. But don't come crawling back when you realize how much you need them. Because once you cross this line, her voice dropped lower. There's no coming back. The message ended. I stood still. No tears, no scream, only quiet, and something deeper than anger. Something colder than grief. Clarity. They didn't love me. They didn't see me. I was a transaction. And the moment the transaction stopped, I became disposable. I placed the glass in the sink, calmly, and picked up my phone. There were more messages waiting, but I didn't read them. The knock came early. Too early. That half-light hour where the world hadn't quite made up its mind whether to wake or keep dreaming. I was still in my robe, cradling a warm mug, staring out the kitchen window. It came again, louder, sharper. I didn't have to guess. There weren't many people in my life who'd show up uninvited, and only one of them had a habit of demanding entry without ever asking first. I walked slowly to the door. No rush. I let my hand rest on the knob for a second, grounding myself. Then I opened it. There he was. Eli. Wrinkled hoodie sweatpants that hadn't seen laundry in weeks. Hair wild. Eyes red-rimmed, whether from anger, lack of sleep, or both, I couldn't tell. Are you serious right now? He snapped. What the hell is going on with you? I didn't answer right away. I just leaned lightly against the doorframe. Good morning to you too, I said quiet. He scoffed, running both hands through his hair like he was trying to hold his skull together. Don't do that. Don't act like this is no big deal. You blocked Mom. You blocked Miriam. You didn't send rent. You're just cutting us off. Pretending we don't exist. I tilted my head slightly. I don't know Eli. Maybe I just got tired of being treated like a piggy bank. His jaw tensed. Oh my God, not this again. I let out a short breath, not a laugh, not quite. Just the sound of exhaustion with shape. Claire, come on, he said, voice rising. I'm your brother. We're family. You know what Mom and Dad have done for you. My voice when it came was soft, but it landed hard. I saw the video. He froze. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. What video? I smiled, but not kindly. You know exactly what video. He shifted his weight, eyes flicking away, his hands curled into fists at his sides. Okay, look, it wasn't serious. We were just talking, joking around. You're overreacting. I didn't raise my voice, didn't flinch. You sat around a table and laughed about how I'd be nothing without you, how you could just guilt me again. Do you know what it's like to hear your family speak about you like that? He rubbed his face hard like he wanted to scrub the moment away. Claire. No, I said, straightening. You want help? Get a job. You want someone to cover your rent. Ask the people who called me a disappointment. I'm done. For the first time, he had nothing to say. We stood there in that hush wind moving somewhere behind him. Finally, his face hardened. Fine, he spat. Be a selfish bitch. Just don't come crawling back when you realize you've got no one left. I didn't answer. I didn't slam the door. I just closed it slowly. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel guilty. That evening, the sky turned the color of burned copper, quiet, heavy still. I sat at my desk with a blank document open. The cursor blinked expectant. It wasn't revenge I was writing. It was memory. Line by line, I pulled receipts, bank transfers, utility bills, Venmo records, emergency wires labeled urgent, $650 for Eli's moving expenses, $220 to cover Mom's unexpected dental work, $300 toward Dad's failed business pivot, never even thanked, and so many more that blurred together like loose coins at the bottom of someone else's pocket. I didn't list them to demand repayment. I listed them to remember who I had been. At the top of the page, I wrote a single line. Here's everything I gave you thinking it was love. I saved it as a PDF, attached it to an email, and typed only this in the body. This is my final contribution. I don't owe you anything. Not money, not silence, no signature, no threats. Just send. Then I opened the old family group thread. I hadn't typed in it for months, not since they made fun of my promotion, but asked for more money in the same breath. I scrolled. Past Miriam's birthday photos I was never invited to. Past Dad's memes about useless degrees and emotional people. And then I wrote, "You all talk about what you've done for me, but never once asked what I gave up to carry you. You didn't need me. You just used me. This is the last message you'll ever get from me. Don't contact me again." I hit send, muted the thread, archived it. Then I opened my phone's contact list and scrolled. One by one block. Mom, Dad, Eli, Miriam, my aunt. No anger, no regret, just space. I set the phone down. The silence that followed wasn't loud. It wasn't cinematic. It was clean. And in that stillness, I realized something simple. They never saw me. Just what I could provide. And now that was gone, I could finally decide what stayed. Not noise, not guilt, just peace. And a closed door that didn't need to be slammed. Only locked softly, but fully. The next morning, the air felt sharper. Outside, someone was mowing a lawn 2 doors down. The world moved on, indifferent, unaware. I had just poured a second cup of coffee when the notification came. One new voicemail. From Mom. No text, no missed call, just a voice file waiting in the inbox. I stared at it for a long moment. She hadn't called in person, hadn't texted since I sent the email, hadn't tried Eli or a new number or a guilt-drenched emoji. She'd recorded her message. That alone told me something she'd rehearsed it. I pressed play. Her voice started quiet, controlled. "Claire, sweetheart, I don't know what's gotten into you. We're all very confused. Hurt. A breath. Your father can't sleep. Eli's beside himself. I'm trying to hold this family together while you block us out like strangers." Then the voice cracked, but only for a second. "You've always been sensitive. I know that. And maybe we said things we didn't mean, but Claire, families argue. Families lean on each other." I closed my eyes. She didn't know what I'd heard. Or she was pretending she didn't. Either way, it didn't matter now. You think you're being strong by pushing us away, but what you're really doing is abandoning the people who made you. The words landed cold. She wasn't begging. She was building a case. We raised you. We fed you. We kept a roof over your head. You forget that. You forget how much we gave when we had nothing. Another pause. This time the mask slipped. But maybe you never appreciated that. Maybe this version of you, the one with her fancy job and her big opinions, maybe she thinks she's better than us. Silence. Then came the quietest line of all. "If you walk away from this, don't expect to come back. Not when you need us. Not when you realize the world won't care the way we did." Click. That was it. The message ended. The screen went still again. I set the phone down beside my mug. My fingers didn't shake. My breath stayed steady. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel like I owed her a reply. Not even silence shaped like shame. I reached for a pen, grabbed the nearest receipt still lying on the counter from last night's file, turned it over, and wrote just one thing. No, not in anger, not in pain, just the truth. And then I tossed it in the trash and walked out the door into the morning. because the voice that mattered now wasn't hers. It was mine. I didn't get another message after that. No knocks, no voicemails. No, let's talk. The silence they left behind didn't scare me anymore. It felt earned. In the evenings, I'd walk past the shelves filled with books I hadn't had time to read, and now I did. I cooked for myself, just me, and the food tasted better somehow. The quiet was no longer absence. It was a presence. One I could trust. No more payments. No more apologies typed out at midnight trying to soften someone else's tantrum. No more explaining why I didn't want to fund their chaos. And most of all, no more wondering if I mattered to them. I knew the answer now. They didn't love me. They loved what I gave them. And the moment I stopped giving, they stopped pretending. So I stopped pretending too. Not with a scream, not with revenge, not with receipts posted online or burned bridges in public. Just a closed door, locked from my side, because I finally realized I never needed their permission to walk away. They raised a daughter who could survive. They just never thought she'd survive without them. But I did. And in the quiet of that victory, I smiled. Not for them. Not for anyone watching. Just for me. If you ever stopped replying just to hear yourself think again, leave a single symbol. That's all it takes.